When Justin was about 8 months old, he caught a virus, just a common virus, and it just happened to attack his heart. So I took him to the ER, and they told me he was in mild heart failure. And after that, we tried medication for a few months to bring down the swelling of the heart, and that didn't work. And in January, they decided to put him on a transplant list. And so now we're just waiting. He can't get better. His heart won't be able to. So the only way he can get better is if he has a new heart. I'd be so grateful to anybody who could give my son a heart. I couldn't even put it into words.
If we don't have the organ or we don't have the valve, then we can't do the surgery. Now, with heart or lung transplantation, you can only sustain a patient so long without replacing the heart or the lung before the patient's going to die. As far as transplanting a heart or a lung, obviously can't do the surgery if we don't have a donor, and having a donor depends on a family's willingness to consent to organ donation.
AJ wanted to go visit his grandmother, and he never had crossed the street over there, but he just like begged his grandmother. They proceeded to go across the street, and he went across the street, but on the way back home, AJ ran in front of a car. I was just thinking, you know, my little boy, he'll get through it. But a couple of hours later, they came back in and told us that he might not make it, and that he had brain injuries, and he wasn't getting enough oxygen to his brain.
Brain death means that a physician or, depending on the hospital, potentially 2 or more physicians have agreed that a child has lost all clinical evidence of brain function.
Brain death is a very abstract concept, even for healthcare providers. So as a nurse, I'm very careful to assess the level of understanding of the family and re-educate them, answer their questions.
Part of our human condition is having a fantasy of what our children are going to be. From the moment the mother is pregnant, we have an idea of how our child is going to look like, where they're going to go to school, who they're going to marry. And all of a sudden, something terrible happens, and that child is lost. So at the moment that the family has to face the loss of their child with the opportunity of perpetuating that child's life somehow.
That day he came home from school and he brought a paper where he had told me that they explained something about organ donating in school, but he didn't quite understand. He brought me the paper home and he told me that he wanted to know more about it. And I sat him down and I told him that this was something that not only for kids, but it was for all ages. And after I got done, he said, yeah, you know, because I asked him, do you want to do this? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, if you want, put your name here and I'll sign here and you can take it back to school and you'll be registered as a donor. So that was about a month and a half, 2 months before the accident. At 7:15, they left, and 5 minutes later, my daughter comes knocking at the door saying somebody had hit my son at the corner. So I ran out there and he was close to the curve. And when I picked him up and got him in my arms, he opened it, closed his eyes, and then that's when I knew he was gone. And then that was it. You know, that makes me feel a lot better to know that there's 5 kids out there that have something of him that still lives.
Hannah was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy, which was a result of a viral infection which had settled in her heart.
One of the distinguishing features of children either waiting for a heart or for a liver is that there is no life-prolonging alternative such as dialysis, which of course is available for a kidney patient waiting for transplant. Now, even having said that, pediatric kidney patients waiting for transplant on dialysis have a significant morbidity and mortality attached to just being on dialysis.
We currently have many children who are on the waiting list for heart transplantation or for lung transplantation or for heart and lung transplantation.
We found out at that time that his only option to stay alive was to have a heart transplant. Every time the phone rings, you think it's the phone call that you've been waiting for. You have a pager on 24 hours. It's like walking a tightrope every hour, every minute. It seemed like it was going on so long. And we'd go to the hospital, stay with Kyle, check in with the transplant office every day, see if there are any leads, anything new going on.
Shortly after our daughter Brianne turned 10, she was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. However, the surgeon wasn't able to get all of the brain tumor because of its location. She suffered a seizure, and it was from the brain tumor. And at that point, when they came out and told us that she had suffered the seizure, they ran some tests and they didn't see any brain function at all. But during that 24 hours, Rick brought up organ donation, since we weren't given much hope they would have any good results from the test.
I believe Brianne is very supportive of what we have done. Along with her younger brother, Brandon, who's 9, we kept him informed of what the situation was. And even through the donation process, we've set Brandon down and explained to him what has taken place, and the recipients are now living because of what Brianne's gift was.
We both decided we couldn't stand the thought of another parent sitting in a hospital room waiting for a phone call that an organ had been found so that their child could live. We didn't want them to have to experience the pain that we were going through, losing a child.
Kyle was on the heart transplant waiting list for about 2 months when he passed away. The dynamic of having 2 children in your family is wonderful, and you don't realize until you lose one that there's a big hole right now.
I'd give anything to have him here.
When we received the call, immediately you feel the excitement and the relief that this could be a match, this could be a donor. So you have all of those emotions. And then when you're packing your bags and you're getting ready to go to the hospital, it hits you that there's a family possibly leaving the hospital that just gave you your child's life. So you take a moment and you pray for them. You pray for comfort. And as a mother, I hope that eventually the mother of the donor family will meet Hannah and know that her child and her family has made a wonderful difference.
Justin got his transplant on April 23rd. I don't have the fears that I had before. When I used to sleep with Justin, I'd always have my hand on his chest to make sure that his heart was beating. And I'd listen at night, and if I didn't hear him wrestling around, I'd wake up in the middle of the night so many times. And now I could sleep knowing that when I wake up, he's still gonna be right there. And his heart's gonna be okay, and he's gonna be all right. It's a blessing. So amazing to know that there are people out there with such good hearts that have helped us so much. And I wouldn't know how to I'd have to invent a word to express how I felt. And I'm working on it.